Welcome. You are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues. My name is Anthony. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, another bozo on the bus, and I care about you.
And I'm LouiLou. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm recovering for crystal meth and alcohol, and I'm always in search of balance. Yes, and each week we strive to foster a brave space where we can engage in conversations centered around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for more people in recovery by tackling issues sometimes used to separate us.
Yes, but before we do that, please like, share, comment, rate this episode. Subscribe, please do.
You know, sometimes when you say it, I want you to say, wait, like, subscribe, share, like, subscribe. Wait, no, I remember. How do you normally say it?
Like, share, like, subscribe.
Subscribe, smash the like button.
Smash. Absolutely.
Ding that bell. That's what we haven't said in a long time.
I know, ding that bell.
Ding, 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 ding. And now the disclaimer, the thoughts and opinions expressed on at the CCC are ours alone. We do not represent anyone but ourselves. In other words, we're just a couple of friends behind a mic here to entertain you. And of course, everything we talk about is for general information purposes only.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Generally informed. How are you doing, Becky?
I'm fine, Becky.
Oh my God.
I'm good. It's a little warmer in the room. I'm really hoping that the mics aren't picking up the heater.
They don't. Every time.
I know that's what you say.
No,
and they never do. They never do. Yeah, they never do.
Like I'm all. But it's like I'm all. I worry because you're like a kitty cat that doesn't want to be cold, and I want to make sure.
I do not want to be cold.
Yeah, exactly.
I do. Someone did tell me I'm more cat than I am dog.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
How are you?
I am good. Life's good. I'm really working on character defects, specifically like.
You must be busy.
No, wait, exactly. Wow.
Wait. Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. No. Specifically the control part, and at work, and I'm seeing some. It's uncomfortable, but I'm seeing some kind of. I'm seeing some slow growth. It's a struggle because I like things to be the way I like them, and the worst is I'm in a situation because I'm a supervisor there where I have some of it's justified, some of it, but you know what? I need to find a way. I want to find a way to kind of do what I need to do with a little more grace.
A little bit more grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know what I thought you were going to say?
What?
I thought you were going to say, I like having things the way that I like them because I'm a Virgo.
No. Yeah, no, exactly. But it's like, that's just because I'm me.
It is.
Yeah.
So today's topic is sex without substances.
Ooh.
Sex without substances.
I know. Wow.
Yeah. So the other day I was in a group.
Group sex?
No, no group sex.
I know.
I think I'm too shy for that. So there was, and I've heard this a few times. He was a gay man, who, meth was his drug of choice. Uh-huh. And he's talked about how sobriety has ruined his sex life. He's newly sober.
Okay. And it's so funny. It's like, I'm all, honey, you haven't even given yourself a chance. It's like, I'm all, my sex life is yeah.
Yeah, but for a lot of people, their drinking and using was very much linked up with having sex, either because it helped them feel more confident or more comfortable, right? Uh-huh. Were like substances involved in a lot of your sex life?
You know what? Honestly, it's like from the time that I lost my virginity up until the time that I got sober, I looked back on it and I realized that I was always under the influence of something.
No way.
And I, at one point, was questioning whether or not I was even gay.
Oh.
Because I realized that, how sometimes folks behave a certain way not because they are that, but because they fear something or whatever their situation is.
Sure.
Or hating. And so I had to kind of step back and see what's going on. Yeah, no, they were tied.
Yeah,
they were completely tied, and I really feel like you become with the work that we're doing, you become like a surgeon, a world-class surgeon, because the work is very fine-tuned, separating out like because they're so kind of ingrained.
Yeah. Well, so there were. Whenever I drank, I almost always wanted to hook up. And I think part of that was because drinking, made it more comfortable for me. And by that, I mean, like, I felt like I had more courage, or I felt like more interesting or more appeal, just any number of things. Right. And then when I stopped drinking, I had to figure out what my sexuality was. I'm like, wait, what do I like?
Yeah,
what do I like? What don't I like?
That's a tough one, because it's like you go in doing, and we talked about it last episode. It's like, it lowered my inhibitions. It allowed me to do the things that I probably would have eventually done, but I did them so fast that I didn't know whether or not it was my choice or and clearly it wasn't my choice.
Oh my God, I have a story for you. Okay, so there was this one time I was hanging out with a bunch of my friends, and some of them like they drank or did drugs and stuff like that. And there was like this one guy who's like a friend of a friend who was into me. Right. But at the time I was sober. Right. I mean, I've had relapses, but at the time I was sober. And I remember the long and the short of it is like we end up in the same room. Right.
I think you told me this story.
Did I?
Yeah, you told me this story, but
it happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
I remember telling you this story. It happened I think it happened like 5 years ago. Yeah. So, guys, I was like, what story? Because I've told you so many.
Yeah, I know exactly. I listen intently because I learn new things every time I'm on this bitch.
Yeah. So, okay. So what was really interesting about this whole situation was I was obviously sober and he was not sober.
Yeah.
And like, he was like, he had like said a couple suggestive things or whatever. And I was like, okay, we'll see where this goes, because I thought like he was coherent enough. And then at some point I'm like, wait a minute, like, number one, like, although he's the one initiating all of this stuff, my first thought was like, motherfucker, you are drunk.
Yeah.
You are drunk and you are high. You cannot consent to any of this shit. Yeah. And then I was thinking about like the way I used to feel after hooking up, and then I would sober up, and then I'm like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like holding that stuff for him too, and thinking to myself, like, this is just like not a good look. Yeah. But the comical part of all of this to me is like, I think he thinks he was being so fucking sexy and so smooth. Course, yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, bro, you are so off the mark. Like, there's nothing about this situation that's enticing. I think the only reason why like I entertained it for a couple of minutes was, he was cute, and
exactly.
We were having fun, like when we were hanging out and stuff like that. But it was so fucking dumb. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, is this what I was like? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think the problem, like when I was drinking, so there was periods where I was drinking, and because I'm clearly an alcoholic, and I clearly, that's where it starts. I was a mess. Yeah. I was a mess. And most of the situations that I found myself in, I stumbled into them, Yeah. Like I stumbled into them and whatever. It's like, but it wasn't until like the shift with crystal meth is an interesting drug, because I felt like I had more control of me, and my libido was supercharged, and so like I feel like that's when more of the experiences, when I say like I probably had more experiences then faster than I would eventually have. The inhibitions were down. With alcohol, I would just wake up next to people and I have to gnaw my arm off. It's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I remember one in particular. I was living in Sacramento. I was living in Sacramento, and I was out at the bar, and I was drinking for some reason. And I look back at how reckless I was, but I blacked out. And when I came to, there was some guy, I was in his room, and he was telling me to stop trying to eat, to rim him, and whatever. And he was making demands and whatever. And
what, like, eat my ass?
No. I think that I was doing what I would normally do when I was going there. And he was saying, I told you I don't want that. It's like, I'm all, and finally I remember just getting up and saying, you know what? Okay. The concern that I have is that you brought me home in this condition. It's like, I'm all,
You knew what you were getting.
what is your problem? It's like, I'm all, of course, I didn't have the higher moral ground or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell that story because alcohol, I was a mess. I was not in control of anything.
Okay, I have a story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is back when I was drinking. So one of the things that I used to do when I would go out and I was drinking is I would find someone that I thought was attractive. I would go up to them and I'd be like, hey, we're going to be boyfriends tonight. And normally it would work, right? And, you know, I would hang out with this person. I would drink with this person. We would be boyfriends for the night. So there was this one time I was at the cafe, actually. And there was this really cute guy. And I told him, I was like, hey, we're going to be boyfriends tonight. We were having a really good time. Okay. So fast forward, I wake up in his bedroom. And I turn to him and I go, did we fuck? And he goes, no, we didn't. I was like, oh, okay, good. And then I go, how did I get here? He's like, well, we were at the cafe. You grabbed my hand and you told me we were going to be boyfriends. And then you disappeared. And then at the end of the night, when I went, you were laying on the pavement. So apparently I was out with a bunch of my drinking friends. I had passed out on the pavement and no one fucking thought to take me home or thought to wake me up because maybe they were also fucked up. So this guy felt bad for me and walked me to his place and let me sleep there. And I was like,
and I love it. Your first thing, did we fuck?
Yeah. Well,
no.
Yeah. So okay. I get sober, long down the line, right? Like years later, and I bump into him, and I went up to him. I was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you thank you. A few years ago, like I was drunk on the street and you told me you took me to your place. And he goes, I have no idea who you are.
please leave me alone.
Yeah. He's like, I don't remember this happening. And I have no idea who you are. And I was like, that's fine.
No, it's okay.
It's totally fine. But you know, I thought, but there's a way that like I look back at those moments.
Yeah. There
was a time when I was like struggling to get sober, and I would look back and I'm like, oh, I missed that. But
the chaos of it all.
Yeah.
Like I always joke and say, like, I miss the times when I used to sneak around. Like there was that year. It was like that prerequisite year before like I started to come out to people.
Okay.
Where I was sneaking around. Like there was this one bookstore in Mountain View, because I lived in Mountain View at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on El Camino Real on the main street. And I would park all the way over by the library, walk blocks or whatever. And then I would have to look around and cross and look around to see if any cars were coming or if anybody was there. And then I'd go in, and then I'd go in the booth and do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun. I mean, I get some of that at sex clubs in the park, but whatever.
But you're talking, it was exciting.
It was exciting.
Yeah. It was
and
exciting.
I think that to the topic, so I feel like just like with addiction, the excitement, the energy, that, you know, the kind of craziness or the frenetic whatever that we had to deal with,
mm-hmm.
like it was really tough and unlearning, getting to a place where you're like, okay, sex can be quiet and gentle and not
sensual
and essential,
or
and
it
not,
could be kinky. Well,
it can be all of those things, but I think that you have to figure. I mean, I think you have to start. You almost have to start fresh. You have, and
so let's talk about that.
The process was faster.
Yeah.
Like,
what was your process?
Okay, so here.
Okay.
So, I get sober, not having any sex because I gained a bunch of weight or whatever, and I remember going to CMLA. This is a perfect example.
You gained weight, so you didn't feel comfortable having sex?
I didn't feel comfortable,
okay.
so I wasn't having sex, and so I was back to this awkward kind of socially awkward or whatever. And I remember this guy showed interest in me at the conference, and we chatted, and at the dance at night we kissed.
Ooh.
And that was all. And we didn't do anything because, me being the whore that I am, normally I would have done everything all weekend long and then with other people. But no, that was all I could do. And it was it was my version of hooking up. It was great. And it was little things like that where I was reclaiming those experiences. You know, it's almost like I used to listen. Well, it was exactly like I used to listen to house music. And for the longest time, I couldn't listen to house music because it would take me back there. So then I started listening to it while I was at the gym and other places so that I was reconditioning, you know, and that was like, and then so.
I love that.
It was slowly but surely. And by the time I got back, and I mentioned before, like around a certain time, I started going to the play spaces or whatever on certain nights. Like I was uncomfortable with my body, so I decided to go to Naked Night.
Work.
And don't ask me where this courage or whatever was coming from, but I started doing that, and it was great. And then I started exploring a little more. And
that's exciting. And as a sober person, exactly.
And
wait, say more about like what that was like. Yeah.
It was scary. It was scary. It was like I definitely had fear because I was thinking, you know, I'm not enough, and also it's like I didn't feel like I had the same kind of prowess or powers that I had, the powers that I had when I was using, it's like, and I had to be present.
Yeah.
I had to be present until I wasn't, because that was another thing too. Like making sure that I didn't start using that to check out. You know how we would transfer. Because all of a sudden it's like, this is good. It's like, I can do it. So I'm going to keep doing it. I'm keep doing a lot of it.
Well, see, you're talking about something that's actually quite exciting, which is, and you're talking about like getting out of your comfort zone. Right. And this reminds me of something Mary once said. You know, Mary, former chair. I was going to say older Mary, but that seems rude. No. She, one of the things she says, and I think I've talked about it before, she says, the truth is invigorating.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So when you do the thing that you fear, you do the thing that you avoid, like when you get to the other side of that, it can feel like a high.
No, absolutely.
It can 100% feel like a high. And that, I think, is like how you make sobriety exciting.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh yeah.
And you're awake for the experiences. Have you ever had as a sober person, have you ever had to have like an uncomfortable talk about sex with someone? No? Well, I'm thinking of one I had.
What do you mean, like not wanting to have sex with?
Well, no, here, I'll just
go ahead. Yeah.
So it was a leading question, so that I could talk about something. So, I was in this situation where a friend and I were attracted to each other, and we had sent kind of like flirty text messages. And at some point we hung out, and he said, "Hey, can we talk about the text messages?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he goes, "Well, are we hooking up? Are we not hooking up?" And I go, "I'm really glad you brought this up. No, we're not hooking up."
Oh,
yeah. I was like, "No, we're not hooking up. It seems really irresponsible." But what I applauded in that situation was his response was a very sober response, right? He wasn't kind of like he wasn't playing that game of like, should I bring this up? Should I not bring this up? Because I think, for me at least, sometimes it can be very difficult to have those kind of conversations because they aren't sexy. They take, like when you say something like, when you kind of like, okay, hey, let's talk about this thing that we've been doing.
Yeah.
It can take the kind of fantasy and allure out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I thought was incredible about that conversation is that it actually felt exciting.
Yeah.
It was somber.
Yeah, exactly.
It was somber. It was sobering. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, this is life on life's terms. This is what it looks like to like be real with another person. So that was a little uncomfortable. It's not a conversation I'm used to having. So I was wondering if you've had any experiences like that.
Well, I feel like I have, and I feel like I, actually, the conversations that I've actually had, not like, it's where I realize that I can be as honest as I can, but if the other person, even though the other person says they can be honest, it's like it doesn't always mean they, or they're open to the honest,
to the extent that they
to the truth.
Yeah.
And so I've had situations where I've connected or I've hooked up with folks in recovery, and I'm all, so this is what this is. You know how my attitude about it's what this is, and I would rather be a safe space for you than have this experience if this is not something that you can handle, because I know what this is, this is what it is. I don't want to give you the impression that it could become something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where it gets uncomfortable, because I mean, I know what happens to me. It's like, I may start off being all in love with you or whatever, but it's like the sands through an hourglass. It's like, as the sands are dropping, my interest and knowing that is half my battle.
It's a gamble.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. Personally, I've so I'm very conflicted around the idea of separating sex from intimacy.
Oh yeah.
I think that you can have casual sex and it can feel very intimate, but I think there's something that happens to my body, like, a lot of like the vast majority of my sexual experiences have been like casual. They've been like hookups. And of course I've had sex and relationships, but those are very different experiences for me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think about is, what is happening when I do that, I mean, I think that's something that I question, like, as a gay man, like, am I being suffocated by like heteronormative ideas? Is there something wrong with me if I don't want to do certain things? Right. Yeah. And these are questions that I get to ask myself as like a sober person. These are not questions I was asking myself before.
Yeah. Oh God.
And like you, I also have the ability to like hook up with someone, and then once we're done, we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
I
feel like for me, it's like, I know that I want to have the experience. In the experience, I want to have all the connection, the intimacy, and the mutual kind of respect and whatever. And then outside of it, not that I'm going to be like, all of a sudden I leave like Severance and forget about you. Actually, something that just happened the other day.
Tell me. Someone
that I've been connecting with on a regular basis, probably more than I've connected with anyone else. We had a moment. I had been kind of uncertain if I wanted to follow through with this, if this was what I needed, because, we connect, and we have a type of intimacy, but there's no making out or whatever. And I feel like it's something that I can have at a sex club and I wouldn't bring it into my own space.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not. Anyway, we were talking and I jokingly said something, and I said something about being fearful of behaving a certain way because this individual's like mean or whatever, but I didn't say it like that. And I think it affected him in a weird way or whatever, because all of a sudden he's like, I'm sorry, I need to stop. And
he did?
Yeah. And I totally respect that, because even when I was using, I was always like, you know what? I'm good. It's like, if this is what you don't want, that's fine. But in that moment, I had an aha moment.
What was it?
I had an awakening. I realized it's like, okay, so we've been connecting all this time, and you don't know that.
That what?
That sometimes my love language is sarcasm, or that, my goal is not to hurt you. My goal is to not like, and we haven't, because it's been a slow build to the kind of intimacy that we have. It's like, I realize that even though it's hot, it's just not what I want.
Yeah.
It just doesn't serve. I don't think it serves either of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think, yes. So for me, like, as I get older, I'm noticing that my like sexual appetite has changed.
Oh, yeah.
Like the things that interest me and don't interest me. Right now I don't feel particularly sexual, and I haven't for a really long time, probably because, I'm very stressed out. I have a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. So, and I think that's also a very sober experience, because there was a time where I was drinking, when I was drinking and using, I was having sex when I didn't want to have sex. I was having sex with people I didn't want to have sex with.
And it sucks. I have my own place now. I can do it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think part of what sex without substances is allowing, at least for myself, to what is sexually like satisfying for me to change, you know, and being open to those things changing. And the other part of this is like, and getting real about like the practicality, or rather like the very human nature of sex. That is, it can be awkward. It can be uncomfortable. It can feel clumsy, right? Like it's not a fucking porn, right? Yeah, exactly. Like porns are generally like carefully curated.
Yeah, exactly. All like perfectly staged.
But yeah, but like when you're with another human being, another living human being, you're going to have like something happens, you know, and that to me is very grounding. And that's what it means for me, at least, what it means to like have sex as a sober person. Right. And I have to abandon ideas or fantasies of what can happen. Like, yes, you can have your kinks. Yes, you can have the things that like you want to get into. But then you kind of like you almost have to like abandon that stuff when you're with another human being.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But here's the other thing. As a sober person, I am now more fully aware of the other person. That is to say, you have people in your life that love you. You are worthy of happiness, serenity, to have a life that makes sense to you. And I would be an absolute fucking asshole if I wasn't holding and honoring that whenever I'm being physically intimate with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, and I think that's very different. Because when I was drinking and using, I really wasn't too concerned with the other person. I was really self-interested. And I think that when you take substances out of the picture, and I think just about like the kind of program that I work with, 12-step, and that your values start to shift.
Oh yeah, no, and I can tell on the same token, it no longer feels comfortable, it no longer feels right when you're with someone who you can tell is very obviously not present. Like, and there are some people that just get what I want, or whatever. It's like, it's always been, I don't want to feel like you're doing me a favor, or I'm like some charity case or whatever, or I'm clocking into work.
All right.
Oh God, it's like, oh, I hate that. It's like, what am I, a product?
Yeah.
Unless that's what we plan on doing tonight. That's our role play. And you know, I don't like role plays. So getting in the way of what I came for. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I think, there's just this topic, in particular, it is, it kind of, it resonates deeply with me because it's always been something that I've always been a little confused about, you know, like I've always been a little confused about like, what are my needs, you know, sexually, what are my needs
weird because
with respect to intimacy?
They can change. They can change even, and this is, you know, when they say, you know, you know how they say women have the prerogative, like
women have the what?
The prerogative, like, to change their mind. Like I have found recently, it's like, and perfect situation. I was online and I'm going to hook up. I was on one of the sites and I posted that I was interested or I was horny or whatever. And then instantly, like, I'm all, okay, yeah, I think I've been doing this too long. I'm done. But this guy hits me up and he's like, and then I told him, it's like, you know what? I think I'm winding down. And he's all, yeah, I just saw your post. It's like, it's interesting that you're winding down after you just posted it. I said, yeah, I've been doing this for a little bit. And also, doesn't matter. Right. I changed my mind. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other topic, which is like the toxicity of like hookup apps and like the way
I like to call people out and say, you know what, if you can't handle this, you probably shouldn't. This is advanced adult.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. So in my dissertation research, I did some, I've had some like peripheral findings around violence, in hookup culture, but specifically via apps, right? Yeah. And it's like it was overwhelming how many stories I started to collect around people like being called racial slurs, being called F slurs, being called just totally.
Or you have somebody hit you up, and then when you say that you're not interested, they like it's like arguing with somebody online. You're fat.
Yeah, So it's a very, and here's the thing is that this is what I've always thought. When people are on hookup apps, it's kind of like they're drunk. If they're on the app because they're horny, like if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or horny, you're not going to think straight. You're not going to behave. You're not going to be on your best behavior, right? And so I think that that's part of what happens on these apps is that you're essentially everyone's drunk. That
is exactly it.
And so people are not on their best behavior, and there's a way that's been kind of, I guess, I think a lot of people think it's like par for the course, like this is just the way it is. Did I just lose your interest?
No, you didn't. It's like
while I was talking,
it buzzed on my watch.
Louis looked at his phone, and then his watch. He pointed to his watch and said, "Wrap it up, Anthony."
No, I did not. I didn't. I live for you.
I live for you.
Yeah. No.
I'm scratching my chin with the mic.
Yeah, this is why. Okay, it's like before it used to be burping and all that other.
I'm not burping anymore.
I'm gonna have to mark the mics.
I've grown out of burping into the mic. So what does what does your sex life look like now? These days?
You know what's interesting? It's like I think that I want to hook up and whatever, and usually I don't. That's sort of and kind of what you were talking about.
Is that when like people think they're hungry but they're actually just thirsty?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I tell you what it looks like. It's a little convoluted.
Okay.
It's messy right now. It's messy because like I do this thing where I was like I'll be scrolling through my TikTok, but I'll sign in and put a little eye emoji like I'm looking in the sex just because maybe I want the attention or whatever. And I've had like these guys that I find desirable who will send me messages or whatever, and they'll be right around. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to host you at my place because I don't want to have to deal with this. Or no, I don't want to go to you. I don't want to travel. I don't want to host. I don't want to travel. Mm-hmm. And so, I think what's going down is that I am just not certain right now. I'm not certain, and that's a really good thing.
That's cool.
That's better than it was, because before I was just like out of control.
Yeah, and you know what? We were talking about this earlier before we turned on the mics. You don't have to fuck everyone you're interested in.
No, you don't, but you can try.
Yeah, you don't have to have sex with every single person you think is attractive.
Oh God, no.
It is possible to cultivate a friendship. And again, I am as sex positive as the next person. And one of the observations I've made of people in early recovery is that they'll over and over again, I see this, and I've been in the rooms for over 10 years. They will see someone at a meeting they think is cute and immediately go on the hunt.
Oh, exactly.
And it's like, you know what? You don't need a chase.
Exactly.
You need to run up every tree.
Not at all. Not at all. It's like you're creating. It's there's so many reasons why like it's not good, because it creates an unsafe, uncomfortable environment.
Yeah.
You get a reputation.
And here's the thing. Who gives a fuck about the reputation?
I do. No kidding.
Yeah. I'm the last person who's going to tell you.
I know, exactly.
I'm the last person who's going to tell you like,
you know how we get sober and all of a sudden we're golden again.
Yeah. But it's not like
I'm a woman.
I don't. Yeah. My advice to anyone listening is like, don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks about you. Exactly. Like your reputation. Well, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? And I get it. And also, who cares?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
But it does get messy.
It gets messy, and
it can get messy.
And if this is what, like, if you're like, if this is what you're trying to do, you don't want to be the reason why it's no longer safe for you. No longer free. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah, it's like the old expression, you don't want to shit where you eat.
Exactly. Well, because it's like I always say, be careful who you say hi to, because you don't have to say hi to them again. And it's even worse if you've been intimate like that with them.
Wait, what did you say? Be careful who you say hi to, because you'll have to say hi to them again.
Exactly. Because the worst is I have had guys that I've hooked up with in my active addiction or whatever, when they come into the rooms, and I'd be a little embarrassed that I chose the way I chose. And one in particular was very kind of vocal about, like, he would make cheeky comments and in
front of people.
Yeah. And so it was clear that he had seen me naked, describing it, and I'm thinking, it's like, okay. That's why I say be careful who you say hi to, because there are some people just like, there's some people that, like, they'll remind you.
Yeah, eyes wide open.
Eyes wide
open.
Eyes wide shut.
Yeah, eyes wide open. I think maybe that's the moral of the story. Do whatever the fuck you're gonna do.
Exactly. Just realize that you have to take responsibility for the choices you make.
Yeah. Can't blame anyone. No victims here.
No, none at all.
No victims here. Of course, I'm not talking about sexual assault. You know what I mean?
Yes. No.
But yeah, no victims here. In the big book, it says I'm paraphrasing, of course, we eventually figure out that a lot of our problems are of our own making.
I know. And that sucks. It's like,
if you find yourself wrapped up in some drama, think about it. How did you get there?
And just so you know, I watch my drama on TV. So if you feel compelled to,
what? You have too many issues and I'm not subscribing.
I know, exactly.
Just eyes wide open. And I think, I don't know. I don't have any, I think I don't really have much else to say about this.
No, I feel like we're landing the plane.
I think we are landing the plane.
We're landing the plane because
because we're like, we're starting to get punchy.
I know, and this is probably when we're at our best.
This is when we're at our best. Shall we land this plane, Louis?
Yeah, so I was going to say, welcome to the...
You're going to read from the beginning. You are at the CCC.
You are at the CCC. It's like, oh my God. It's like I'm all...
the Castro Country Club?
The Castro Country Club is a safe...
Are you serious?
No.
Here,
the
let's
Castro
do
Country
this.
Club is a safe and sober community center for all people and a refuge for the LGBTQ recovery community.
We provide programs and services that help change lives by supporting personal growth.
And our vision is to reduce the suffering of addiction by connecting people to community, opportunity, and support.
You can find more information, including all the ways to contact us, at www.castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
And don't forget, you can check out new episodes every Monday.
Every Monday. Yeah, I think they're released in the morning.
Sometimes in the afternoon. Sometimes on Tuesday.
But it's going to be a Monday. And sometimes on Tuesday. Brandon, you hear that? Do you hear that, Brandon?
Brandon does his best.
He does.